for our third interview of the day at the ISBE Boston Product Show. We are here overlooking on the west side right now. You can see hundreds and hundreds of people below us. You can't see them, but we're hoping to have over 4,000 people at the show today, which is pretty unbelievable. Yeah. It's pretty unbelievable. Back to pre-COVID numbers, so we're very excited. So our third guest today is Lindsay Daniels.
There's only one of me, as my husband says.
Ah, singular. All right. Lindsay is here. She works at Takeda, and unlike our other guests that we've had today are all from Boston, ISBE like board people. Lindsay has been in other places, and she's new to the Boston area, so we're kind of excited. Thanks for coming, Lindsay.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Yeah, she found out how big Gillette was when she showed up today. It's a big place. All right, the previous two people ran across Gillette to get here late. So, anyways, and you were not late. You were on time. Good job. So, just to get us going before we talk about ISBE directly, could you just give us a little background about who you are, where you are? I mean, I said you're at Takeda, but what kind of things do you do? And, what kind of roles have you had at ISBE?
Yeah, sure. So I currently am in strategy and business excellence within Takeda. Working in product operations as a program manager. So I work with a team and manage a team that oversees some of Takeda's top assets. So we ensure end-to-end supply for some of the programs within Takeda. Within ISP, I've kind of bounced around. So I started within ISP in San Diego after college.
That's right, yeah.
From San Diego, moved from the best weather in the country to the worst weather in the country, and we moved to Meta. However, in that transition, I was working on the Covington project with CRB, so I went down to Atlanta for a while.
Let's go to Georgia, yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of helped out with the Georgia ISP kickoff, started a student chapter down at Georgia Tech while I was there. And then went back up to Minnesota, sat on the Midwest board for a little bit. I did the treasurer and board of directors for a little bit while I was there. Back in San Diego, I was the chair for the Young Professionals Committee, and I also chaired the International Young Professionals Now Emerging Leaders Committee within ISP.
Okay.
And then since I've moved to Boston, I have continued my international work. So I sit on the International Committee for Women in Pharma, as well as the Planning Committee for Facilities of the Future.
It's too bad you don't do anything with ISBE.
Yeah.
Are you from San Diego, Minnesota? Where are you from?
No, sir. So I'm from Tennessee.
You're from Tennessee. Where in Tennessee?
Nashville.
All right, cool.
And then I went to school in Virginia. So it was Tennessee to Virginia to California to Minnesota to Boston. So
Full tour. You got to get down to Florida at some point, probably, right? Something interesting about Lindsay is she just bought a really beautiful spot.
Yeah.
What town are you in? Is it
So we're in Harvard. We got a 7-acre horse farm in Harvard.
Not to be confused with Harvard University for anybody that doesn't know what that is.
Right. It's like almost Western Mass. It's a little bit out there, but still within, commuting distance to Cambridge and Lexington where I work.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got a 7-acre horse farm. The CEO of Lindra Therapeutics, Trish Herder, so she's also in the industry. She owned the property and built it and designed it. And she just did a remarkable job. It's such a beautiful facility. She just, everything horses she planned. And we could not be happier.
So ever since COVID, I've connected with people through work on Facebook. Yep. I didn't do that ever before, but because of COVID and we were all like, we can't see anybody, I started to. And so I've gotten to see this adventure that Lindsay's on. And I will tell you, I think Lindsay does more before the rest of us wake up than the rest of us do in a day, between horses and kids and going for 10-mile swims and whatever she happens to be doing. I get tired reading the post of all the stuff she did before 6 a.m. So yeah. Nice work.
I've been starting to commute into Lexington from Harvard. And for those of you that aren't in the Massachusetts area, the commute home is about a 2,000-foot elevation climb on the bike.
Oh.
The way into work is really downhill, relaxing, wakes me up. But the ride home is kind of a killer after those grueling days. So
seems like you should have a car waiting for you.
Yeah, at the bottom of the hill. Yeah.
All right, so you kind of covered when you joined ISP. You joined ISP right out of college.
Yes, sir. I actually
were you in college, in a student chapter?
No, so we didn't have a student chapter at Virginia Tech. I've actually retroactively implemented one and started one at Virginia Tech because after I left, because it was so meaningful to me, but I actually only joined ISPE because they had a chapter in San Diego. And so my now boyfriend at the time, he played lacrosse at Virginia Tech, and he got a job in San Diego designing and manufacturing lacrosse shafts. So it was his dream job. He graduated a year before me because he didn't do a co-op and I did.
Yep.
And so I was looking for a job out in California, and I saw that ISPE had a chapter there. So I actually just joined ISPE, $20 membership, which at the time was like a huge fee for me. Right. I just joined it so that I could send my resume to the president of the chapter. And when they got the resume, they sent it out to their board. And within a week, I had interviews at Genentech and CRB. And within a month, I had 2 job offers within CRB and Genentech, and ultimately chose CRB.
Yeah.
So I credit ISB to why I'm in the industry and how I even got into it. So it was really beneficial.
So the way you're answering these questions, the rest of these questions aren't going to make any sense. So we're not even going to go there. That's fine. So what was it about ISBE that sort of like stuck out to you as like, I want to join ISBE if it wasn't even at Virginia Tech and you're not making lacrosse sticks? So like, what did you always want to be in the pharmaceutical space?
Yeah, when I graduated college, I wasn't sure what space I wanted to be in, but that was definitely one of the top contenders. Okay. I had done a co-op at Eastman Chemical. So like plastics and chemicals. Yep. And, that co-op taught me more of what I didn't want to do than what I did want to do. And so I realized that wasn't really the space that I wanted to be in. And the biotech industry had always, interested me. Genentech specifically was really interesting with what they were kind of doing at the time and developing. So I knew that was definitely one of the top contenders. The other one that I was kind of looking at was like green energy type things.
Who doesn't want to do that at some point if you're an engineer, right?
Exactly.
Like saving the world one battery at a time. Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, I think that really what honestly attracted me to ISP initially was the fact that they had a chapter in San Diego. Yeah. That was really the initial attraction.
Okay.
And so I think that's why I sent my resume out there and joined ISP.
That's awesome. That's great. You have a little bit different story, I think, than most in sort of your inception into the space.
Sure.
And it's obvious that your engagement in ISBE has been pretty pivotal in sort of where you've ended up and everything. So one of the reasons I first became aware of Lindsay was not, I don't know, we've never worked together.
Right.
I've not ever worked on an ISBE committee or anything, but I don't know if it was maybe a year and a half ago, you put up a post on LinkedIn that I saw.
Yep.
And I'm kind of a LinkedIn, I spend too much time on LinkedIn. But she put this post up about your experience with having a kid and being a working mom and everything, right?
Yeah.
And it, lots of posts get reads and they're good, but that one blew up as far as I could tell.
Yeah, I think it had like over like 24,000 views.
Yes.
It was insane how many views I got.
So that's a lot of views on LinkedIn, in case anybody's wondering. So I was hoping that you could just sort of share a little bit about that story, because I think it's a really interesting story and one that with women in pharma has been such a, blast off lately in the last, say, 5 years. I think it's just a really important story for people to hear. Would you mind sharing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think when I was graduating college and starting off in my career, I knew I wanted to get married and have kids at some point, but it was just kind of a distant future thing. But I always had some fears around having kids and how that would limit my career, right? I remember specifically, I was about a year in and I was on an FAT and the lead engineer couldn't go because she had a newborn baby that was sick and she just couldn't go. And I just kind of thought in my head of like, oh my gosh, like if I have kids, how am I going to, progress my career? And I remember she said it to me. She goes, Lindsay, you can't have it all, right? Mm-hmm. You can't have a thriving career and a thriving marriage and a thriving kids and home life. It's just not possible. And that really stuck with me and created, I want to say, some anxiety, honestly, around growing myself as a career woman and as having a family. So when I had my son back in 2018, I came back, actually, I'm embarrassed to admit, I came back early from maternity leave. Like Takeda gave me a good maternity package and I didn't even take it all because I was so scared of losing my reputation and more so losing just like my drive and motivation, right? Like if I loved my kids so much, how could I also love my job so much? And when I came back within 2 or 3, I think it was 2 months, Takeda promoted me. So I had been gone for, almost 3 months. And I
could
came
go on
back.
vacation more often. I mean, have kids. Or
Yeah.
that's not a vacation.
And that just showed me, though, how much Takeda invested in me as a woman and as a mother. And I am, as you mentioned, a very avid athlete, right?
Yep.
So I was like, okay, how am I going to, I did an Ironman right before I got pregnant with my son. I was like, how am I going to continue to maintain my physical fitness, which is my therapy and how I maintain my mental health?
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to maintain that, plus maintain my job, plus take care of this child? And I was just really worried about it all. And I started waking up at 4:30, like you noted. I am now waking up 4:30 because the baby would wake up at around 6 most days, hopefully. So that was kind of my time in the morning to work out.
Yep.
I would get the kid up, get him ready, nurse him, take him to daycare, pump at work. In between meetings, like I'd have conference calls, and I'd be in a pump session, and I'd be talking. People would know where I was. Like this whole.
There's a robot walking by us right now. You can't see it. But it is Spot. Cool. It is Spot the robot. All right, keep going.
But it just happened, and I just continued to do everything to my fullest potential.
Yeah.
And it didn't take anything away from my career. And it went so well, we decided to do it again. And I had another baby, and immediately when I came back, 2 weeks after I came back from maternity leave from that, I got promoted again. And I jumped 2 levels that time, from manager to associate director within Takeda, and took a global role that came with a move to Boston.
Yep.
And again, I was kind of like, okay, well, now I have a second kid. How is this going to work? And Takeda has been really, really supportive as me as a working mom.
Mm-hmm.
Like family first, they have lived that motto, and I've appreciated that. But I've just realized that you can have it all. It's just a little bit different than what I initially thought, right? Yeah. I was planning to do an Ironman this year. I didn't get to it, right? We bought the horse farm. I got distracted. But your goals change, but you can still progress your career. I mean, I have grown so much within Takeda over the last 4 years while having 2 children. So it doesn't have to halt your career. And I just really wish someone was there to tell me that earlier in my career, and it would have saved me a lot of anxiety.
Yeah. That I know as a parent, I get the, well, you'll see when they get older, you get that sort of talk. You're like, thanks for the encouragement. That's really helpful. It seems like maybe you got a little bit of that when you were first starting out. Like, well, I know you want to do that, but you'll see what happens when you have a kid. And so I'm curious, and my sons are walking by me right now, making fun of me. So do you think that was built into the Takeda culture, that, you were able to sort of do this? Do you think it was just how you did it? I mean, what do you think what you could attribute a lot of this to?
I think Takeda as a company definitely strives to be supportive of working mothers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know some people that haven't had the same experience as me, so I think it's definitely individual. I had a really supportive boss at when I was in Minnesota. My director of engineering, Jim Lauterbach, he was just, whatever you need, behind me 1,000,000%. Mm-hmm. He always told me that I was like a wild Mustang, that he couldn't wrangle me. That he just
appropriate metaphor for you.
He just had to let me run, and he did, right? Yeah. But I also think that my personality is I don't take no for an answer very well.
Yeah.
And I kind of just bulldoze my way through where I want to be. Hopefully gracefully most of the time, sometimes not so gracefully. But I think that if Takeda wouldn't have been supportive, I would have either found a way to make them supportive, or I would have found an alternative company that was supportive.
Yeah.
But from my experiences, Takeda has been excellent to me and supportive of me and my career and my growth. Every team that I have sat on has just really been behind me.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I attract people who really are champions for me.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of champions backing me and supporting me and mentoring me, both within Takeda and outside of Takeda.
Yeah. So as we close, something that really stuck out to me when I first met you. I'd seen some of your stuff online, and I met you, and you probably didn't know who I was at the time, but I knew who you were at the time. And we were sitting at a table together at annual meeting, I think last year. And we were sitting around this table with all these people from various, walks of life, different kinds of companies, different sort of spaces in their career. And I think you were probably the youngest person at the table. There might've been I think there was one college person at the table, but you were the youngest, and not by a small amount. And what stuck out to me in that moment, we were I don't remember what we were talking about, but you started to speak up, and the whole table was listening to you. And it was like this first moment of like, oh, I don't know who this person is, but she's going somewhere. And it was obvious because people that were far more senior than me, you know, and I'm probably 10 years at least older than you, like they were just sitting there listening. They're like, yeah, you're the next one, right?
Are you sure it's not just because I'm really loud?
No, it wasn't. No, because I felt like you sort of like you gentled your way into the conversation and everything. It was just really interesting because I don't see that very often. It's usually sort of defer to this person's been doing this for 30 years. So you listen, and there were those people at the table, and you don't take anything away, but you really just spoke with a lot of authority and wisdom and a lot of other things in that moment. And I was really impressed. And so it was the moment that I was like, hey, I need to make sure I know who this person is. So
thanks for the feedback, Jesse.
Yeah.
That, I mean, as my mom tells me, neither of her kids lack confidence.
It's not a confidence issue. Yeah.
She tells me that all the time. So,
Awesome.
But thank you. That's really great feedback.
Well, thanks for being here today. I appreciate it. I know you don't have much time here today, so I want you to get out there and enjoy the rest of the show, not be stuck with me.
Thanks,
All right.
Jesse.
Thanks for being here. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.